Hey guys, it's Kevin. Welcome to our 5-minute recap of our last Sunday school lesson on the book of Job. And so we talked about all the trials that Job has went through, the loss of his money, his servants, his family, his health, and all of this was caused by Satan as a way to test Job. But this is all permitted by God. But through it all, Job did not sin. Although a lot of bad things happened to him, he didn't sin, he didn't understand. And so what we see in the very first part of chapter 3 is his lament. He gets up and he gives this very lengthy poem, this lament about everything that's happened to him. It really breaks down into 3 different parts. The very first part talks about him having this desire to never be born. He curses the day that he was born. He curses the day that he was conceived. He really desires he was never alive in the first place. The second part of this lament, he's talking about he wished that he was miscarried. He wished he would have died in the womb and never been able to experience life on earth. And then finally, the third part, the last 4 verses of this lament, talks about his desire that the light of life that he has, he wishes that it would be extinguished. This is a very dark lament because he's going through so much, but he's processing it, and he is just talking about everything that's going on in his life and how he's just in a really dark place. He does speak about, in verse 8 of chapter 3, he talks about cursing the night that he was conceived. And he talks about wanting people who are powerful to bring upon curses to curse that day. Like he just wants that day to be cursed by everyone who has the ability to curse. And he specifically requests people who have the ability to bring up or disturb the sea monster Leviathan. And he says, whoever has the ability to bring up or disturb the sea monster, I hope that those people would curse the day that I was conceived as well. And so he's really calling on all powers of the entire earth to really just curse the day that he was born and conceived. And so he talks about Leviathan. And so I wanted to talk about Leviathan for this lesson as well. So we want to break down everything that we know about this sea creature. It's mentioned 5 times in the Old Testament. And so let's just go through some of those verses, kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. So the Hebrew root word is for coiled or twisted, but it literally just means a sea monster. Sometimes it's translated as crocodile, but sea monster is probably a more accurate transliteration of that word. Some men can disturb it, curse it. We talked about it in 3:8. It's a fast-moving serpent. This is in Isaiah. It may have had multiple heads. It talks about God crushing the heads of the Leviathan in Psalm 74. In Psalm 104, it says that the sea and everything that's inside of the sea, including the Leviathan, was made by God. So it was purposely made for the sea. And in Job 41 is where we get the most information about Leviathan. And the general consensus of these verses in chapter 41 is that Leviathan is strong, he's powerful, he can overwhelm man, but he's no match for the power of God. So what did it look like? Well, that's really hard to say, but let's kind of piece together some of these verses. He could have been a sea monster or a crocodile. That's kind of the translation of that word into English. It's not perfect, but that's one possibility. It had really strong teeth. It had really strong, scaly skin. It could swim strong and very quickly and create this wake behind it. It lives in the sea, so it is a sea monster, not something that's on land. Its underparts, the underside of its body, was considered to be as sharp as broken pottery, so like sharp as glass is what we would say. His skin was like armor, like an armor that a knight would wear. It was stronger than that. Smoke came out of his nose. He breathed fire. His heart was hard as a stone, and even his sneezes brought forth light. So very interesting type of creature that we have here. We don't know exactly what it looked like. You can piece together those and kind of draw your own picture, but it's really hard to tell what exactly we're talking about. So I've got you 5 interpretive options for who Leviathan was. Number 1 would be it's an actual animal that is alive today, like a crocodile or a killer whale or a great white shark or some beast that's in the ocean that is alive today. But all those details that we just read, they're just kind of hyperbolic. This was for poetry. It was exaggeration, just showing how strong this animal would be. So that's one option. It's an actual animal. It's a seagoing dinosaur. That's another option that some scholars would buy into. It's a seagoing dinosaur that's now extinct, though. And what people who would be in this camp would say that all of those qualities that we just read about, those are real qualities, but this animal doesn't exist anymore. And then another one that's similar, this was an actual unique monster. It's not a dinosaur. It's not any other type of animal. It's just something that God created, and it was created by God for his glory and for a purpose. Another option that you have is a mythical creature. It wasn't really something that was real. It wasn't an actual physical being, but people believed it was real. And it just kind of was the imagination of men. They believed there was a beast out there, and they had all these tales about it. But it was believed to be real, but not anything that they had ever seen. And the last option that you have, it's a metaphorical image of Satan, and the idea that only God can defeat Satan's the enemy of Satan. And so here's your 5 options for Leviathan. Scholars have gone all over the place on these, and you might as well. But those are the 5 options for who Leviathan actually was. And this is a good summary of what we talked about. So that's chapter 3 in a nutshell, Job's lament. We talked about Leviathan, and then next week we're going to move in further into the book of Job.